bags of salt.
Good morning and welcome to Frostland Survivorman, Frostman and Joey. But today's episode is actually Joey and Frostman. I'm going to be doing the assisting. Joey's going to be driving the engine.
We're going to do something fun today. We're going to show you how to make some bread.
Well, one of the things that I told Joey about my hobbies and the things that I do, I said, I don't think they're that interesting. People aren't going to want to watch it. And I've been proven wrong because I've been finding out more and more, you have a good friend and then all of a sudden he tells you he did this or he did this or he did this in a younger life. And Joey's done a lot of things. So there's going to be a number of episodes where Joey is driving this flying umbrella.
We have different wheelhouses, different skill sets. One of the things that I did to put myself through college was I worked as a baker in the middle of the night, baking the bread, baking the donuts. My love of pastries and cookies and bread started at that time. So it's not something you would picture two guys like us doing, but you like good bread, you got to know how to make good bread.
Well, my mother baked our bread. Growing up, bread day was Monday, and you'd get home from school on Monday, and the house would smell like baked bread. I used to trade my homemade bread sandwiches to the kids who had the Wonder Bread sandwiches.
Because it was so much better, so much healthier. Plus, you know what's going in there. Now, you hit on a key fact, grandma's recipe. Baking is not like cooking. It's very specific. You have to follow the quantities of salt versus yeast versus baking soda. Those are all real important to the structure of how it goes. The reasons grandma's recipes is the best is because it worked 100 years ago. It's going to work today. Things like a very humid day will make your bread proof quicker and make it more airy. There's a lot of factors that are involved there. I found that when I baked at high altitude, you have to add more flour into it because it just explodes better. So there's a lot of tricks to baking that are different than the cooking, where you can just say, hey, I'm going to add some of this and try it out. That will throw off the recipes. You can experiment and try, but the basics of the salt, the yeast, the flour, it needs a leavener, it needs a base, and it needs something to make it taste good.
Wonderful. So today is Joey driving the engine. I'm going to be mostly behind the camera and watching Joey do what he does. And we're going to make this video of baking bread.
Yep, we're going to make
What's the plan today? We're
going to do cinnamon raisin bread.
Ooh.
Makes great French toast, makes great sandwiches, great for breakfast, and literally has, I think, 9 items. It's got all-purpose flour, which almost everyone has or is cheap. We've got yeast, self-activating yeast, which you need. We've got water, we've got milk, we've got butter, we've got raisins and cinnamon and sugar. I mean, these are staples in the pantry, and super easy. 2 big lugs like us can make some bread.
Sounds good. Let's get to it. Put our hands.
All right. So the first thing that we're going to do here is we're going to prep up some of our items for the baking. With any of the active yeast here, you have to activate it too. You have to get this yeast going. What yeast does is it creates carbon dioxide. It makes the bread all airy. So what we're going to do is add some water to this and get it working for us before we start mixing it into the bread. At the same time, we're going to warm up our milk, get that warmed up, and then let it cool down afterwards. Sounds weird, but you got to warm it up and then get it back down to room temperature. So we're going to heat both of these things. Then once we got the yeast working, we're going to get a big bowl, put the yeast in there, get it working, and then we're going to add the ingredients into there afterwards, the salt, the flour, the everything else. Once it's activated, start mixing it all together. So we've got our milk all ready to go. Next thing we're going to do is activate the yeast. We're going to get a big bowl. All right, here we go. And now we're going to add all the ingredients in here, mix it up, let the yeast activate for about 5 minutes till it starts getting frothy. You don't have to overbeat this, you just mix it in with the water. Again, the yeast and the water is something that you want to make sure that you do properly. Measure these out. When it says warm water, it's because the yeast needs warm water to activate. If you use too hot water, it's going to kill the yeast. If you use cold water, you won't get the action out of it that you need. Okay, looks like we're all ready to go to start adding our ingredients in here into the wet mix. What we like to do when we're baking is make all your wet mix, and then you add the flour to that. So what we've got now is the yeast is activated. It's starting to get frothy. We've let it wait about 5 or 10 minutes just to start working with the warm water that we added. Next thing we're going to do is add the bulk of our wet ingredients. We've got our raisins, which we pre-soaked. You want to pre-soak the raisins, especially we got just those little boxes that you got. You want to pre-soak them. Otherwise, what it's going to do is as it bakes, the raisin's going to suck all the moisture out of your bread, making it really dry, and it won't rise correctly. So we just let them soak for about 10-15 minutes. You want to pat dry them so that there's no extra liquid. But what we're going to do is then I'll start adding this. So we're going to add in the raisins. We're going to add in the eggs. Once you get good, you can do a one-handed. Oh man, you weren't supposed to see that. Add the eggs. Get out any extra roughage.
Don't need that much calcium.
Right, exactly.
Now, Joey, is this going to be gluten-free bread?
No, bread is gluten. If you'd like to view our gluten-free recipe, you can build a time machine and go find 2 other people, but we don't experiment with gluten-free bread.
Spectacular.
Bread is gluten. So we've added the sugar. We're going to add the butter. What we've done is we've softened up the butter so that it's, you can see here, nice and squishy. You don't want it completely done. Now, some things, if you're going to be making like a croissant or pastries, you actually want to use cold butter in that because it helps make a flaky dough on there. We're not making a flaky dough on this. We're making a bread. So we want to have it softened up so it's going to mix up into the bread nice and good. Okay, we've got most of our wet ingredients in there now. Next we're going to do is we come back to our milk that we've heated up before. You want to test it, make sure that it's not too hot, too cold right there. We use a thermometer. All right, perfect temperature. And so we're going to mix this in, and then we're going to mix it up there. Get that in there.
What bakery did you work at, Joey? I think both our viewers would love to know.
Well, I worked at a couple different bakeries, but the one that taught me quite a bit was the Great Harvest Bakeries.
Ooh.
They actually milled their own wheat there, worked for them in Portland, and taught me a lot about the baking, and that they specialized in breads there. And if you haven't ever been there, fantastic breads.
My darling honey wabbit really loves their bread.
All right, so we've got a nice little, not very delicious looking mix here, but it will be delicious here in a second. The next thing that we have to do is we have to add the flour to our mix here. Usually we've got a sifted flour that we use.
So you're using dolphin flour today?
Oh yeah, this is all purpose.
All purpose.
You always want to keep a wooden spoon around to make the rim shot when you make a bad joke. All right, so we're going to put in 8 cups of flour. Now, as we get to the 8th one, we want to we'll measure and see how it's going here. And the other reason that this comes in good is you kind of top it off. So 1. I want to see how the dough is looking. You don't want it to be too wet, too dry, and then I'm adding too much flour. So I'm going to start off here with just the wooden spoon, and then use. Okay. So what we've done up to this point is we've mixed in 7 of the 8 cups of flour, all-purpose flour into there. You always want to make sure you get down to the bottom of the bowl here so it doesn't stick at the bottom. There's a big pile or anything. As you can see, it's a real sticky dough right now. That's why I've left this last one, because what we want to do is we want to make this a stiff dough. It's going to proof up. So this is way too moist right now. So I'm going to add the last one. You can use a mixer with the bread hook on there, so I'm going to put about half in there. Or I always prefer using the first mixer that my mom ever gave me. It's worked for me for everything, and I actually have 2 of them. Okay, so we've got it almost completely mixed in here. I've got a little bit of flour left. The reason that I saved that, didn't put all 8 in, is because the next thing we're going to do is we're going to actually knead it. So I need a little bit of that to cover the surface here. Now, one of the things I really like about this bowl is it's got a rubber base bottom on it. That way, when I'm hand mixing it, this thing's not going all over the place. It's staying pretty set. Makes a huge difference. So now I'm going to get this out here, add a little bit here, and we're going to do what they call kneading the dough, which is basically just working the dough back onto itself.
That is really impressive to watch, Joey. Look at that. That's like a well-oiled machine right there. And look at how smooth that dough is becoming. That's really nifty too.
Yep. Now what you see there, the stretch on the or we record. Oh, the stretch on the dough. That's what gluten is. Now, when I learned to bake, it was before gluten was a thing. I know it's always been around. To me, it's always been a good thing because that's what makes bread good and tasty. Um, but that's the stretching to it, and you can already smell that. I can't smell it because I don't have a sense of smell, but you can smell. This smells like fresh baking bread. This is you can smell the yeast. I want to keep it lightly floured here so that it doesn't stick. I'm not adding enough flour in there to increase the dough because this is already pretty stiff dough.
And you can tell that by just kneading it. You can feel it.
Yep.
Well, you may not be able to smell it, but you can feel the consistency. That's
Yep.
not bad.
And if you give it a little touch here,
Uh-huh.
see how it's springing back?
I see it.
All right. So now what we've got is we've got a nice little ball here coming up. And when you make it, you can kind of do that number. If you wanted to make it like a round or a sourdough bowl or something, that's exactly how you do it. This would be way too much. This would be the biggest sourdough
Do
ball.
that again. Show us that again.
So I'm going in for a knead.
Okay.
And then once it comes time, this will come at the other side. But you can just roll it into a little ball.
That is cool.
And then all the bottom comes together. You can give a pinch there, but that's what makes a nice little thing. Now, when we make the loaves, it'll be the same sort of thing, but I just roll it out. This being a cinnamon bread, we're going to add some more stuff to it here in a little bit. But so I'm going to get this nice and firm. What's going to happen now is we're going to put this back in the bowl and let it proof. What proof does is the yeast is activating, making carbon dioxide, and the bread's going to rise. If you just bake it right then, you'll get that bread that has holes in it. So after it rises for about an hour, we're going to punch it back down gently. No bread was actually harmed in the making of this video.
Yes.
And we'll let it rise. We'll punch it back down. We'll spread it out, put the cinnamon and sugar on it, roll it up in a tube, put it in our bread pans, let it proof a second time, and then we bake. Okay, now comes time to get the proofing process started. What we're going to do is just grease up the bowl. We're going to use just a light vegetable oil, canola oil on this one because it's a really sweet bread. If you were using a more savory bread, a hearty bread, a rye or something like that, you could use an olive oil, something like that. Olive oil doesn't work with sweet. Olive oil works with Popeye. Sorry.
Oh, Popeye bread. I
So
like it.
when we put this in there, like I said, I'm going to just grease up the pan here a little bit. Once I put this in here, I'm going to want to make sure that I get all sides of the bread lubed up here for the process.
So it keeps it from sticking to the bowl, but you were saying something else that it does too.
Well, it helps with the elasticity and the stretching of the dough. It's not going to tear the dough and have the cracks in the top if we do that. So this next process takes a couple different things. It takes time for the yeast to actually work, and it takes heat to not heat, but just a little bit of warmth to make it happen. The most common method of doing this is to put a towel over the bread and the bowl and set it off to the side. If you want to expedite things or have an oven with a proof setting on it, you can put it in there. We're going to do the similar sort of thing right here. What we're going to do is we're going to boil some water, put it down in a pan, let the hot water seep up. Now, for this portion of things that you'll really see, we're going to want this to about double in size before we punch it down. About an hour or so. This part you can't really rush because it depends on the weather. So we're just going to take a towel here, slightly damp towel, and we're going to put it over the bread.
Pull that top thing off.
There we go. And you can see the steam coming up there. Again, not a necessity. This just helps it all activate. Oh my gosh!
Oh, that's funny.
Now I can immediately see from where we put it in, we've over doubled what we needed to get here, and that's exactly how it should be. All right. So you can see nice and sticky and really, really doubled up in size. So now what we're going to do is, I'm not going to use too much flour. This is just so it doesn't stick. We're going to roll this out into like basically a sheet pan. So you just need a little bit of light flour so it doesn't stick. Get some on your hands. I usually put a little bit right here or here, just like the war paint that the football players use. Makes you feel like you've been doing something. Now this is why we pre-grease this pan here. You can see how it's now coming up nice and smooth off of there. But definitely our ball is a lot bigger here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically pound the air out of it. I'm going to knead it back down a little bit, and all the air bubbles are coming out of here. You even hear it squeak like a good curd. Just kind of popping the gluten parts and popping it out. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to roll it out.
Nice rolling pin, eh?
This is a really nice rolling pin.
That is from my good friend Daniel. He is the master of the wood lathe.
Now when we get done with this, we're going to want it about a ½ inch thick on this. Push it. You don't want to tear the dough while you're doing this. This is a nice, gentle, easy process. Most times you'll find you start from the center and roll your way out rather than trying to just go the whole way like that. What that does is it gives you...
That's what you're doing, kind of working it from the middle out to the edges.
Yep, gives you nice little even edges. Right here. For years I made this mistake. What we're going to do is put our filling in here next. Our filling right now is a cinnamon sugar base, the same kind I put on toast in the morning. Just cinnamon and sugar, no big deal. Well, what I would do is, I'd be like, I like my cinnamon sugar with butter. So I'd put butter on here. And what happens is then when you bake it, butter acts as a lubricant and you got all these holes in your nice little round that you're making up. So butter is not what you want to use to do this. You can use some milk. If you want to go fat-free, use some water. And it's just enough to get the cinnamon to hold in there. You do not need a whole lot of liquid at this part.
How many loaves is this going to make?
This is going to make two big loaves here. All right. The other thing with the dough, throughout it, you want it a nice consistent level. It doesn't matter if it's a ½ inch, a ¼ inch, whatever. You just don't want big pockets of dough because you want it to bake evenly.
Look at that. So a little bit of water.
A little bit of water will help it stick down there. That way when we roll it up and cut it here, the next step, it's not going to go all over the place.
And it will stick to itself too.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, I'm getting it now.
So then we're going to start rolling it up a little bit. I like to go a little heavy right at the heart of the cinnamon roll or the cinnamon bun because that's where the money's at.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So now what I'm going to do is
that's going to be the heart of the bread. So
correct.
You want it to have the most in it.
Yep.
Okay.
So what I'm doing here is I'm not just rolling it up. I'm pulling it a little bit and stretching it as I go. What that does is it gives me nice tight spirals when we make it. And like almost every burrito I've ever made, it kind of tends to get big in the middle. Super easy though. We straighten it out. You want about a 3-inch roll on this whole thing. And I want it consistent all the way through because when it proofs up and bakes in the pan, You want a nice even loaf of bread. You don't want those hills and valleys.
Sure. Yep.
Now, you want to change this up, make cinnamon rolls, cut them into an inch part, put them on a baking sheet, let them proof up till they get the size you want, toss them in the oven. 15 minutes later, you're the hero.
Wow.
It's ready.
Okay.
What we're going to do here is cut it into half. Now what you're going to see here is a nice little spiral we've made on the bread. We're going to do one thing to that before we bake it, but that's how you would make cinnamon rolls. Cut it up like that.
Sure.
Again, we're going to put it into a greased pan. Nice little coating on here. What's going to happen, since we've knocked it all down, we're going to let it proof one more time before we bake it. Just till, again, it doubles in size on here.
So it proofs in its own baking pan.
Correct. Yep, it'll proof up around there. Now, one of the things you want to do is, bread doesn't look like that at the end. We kind of have to tuck it down underneath so that both edges won't come out on you. So what I'm doing is just tucking everything to the bottom, and I just give it a little pinch. We don't want all our cinnamon and goodness coming on out there. And nice little loaf of bread. What we're gonna do is pop it in the pan there. And we'll do the same thing with this side here. Just a little tuck under on the bread. Pinch it together. This stuff works. I mean, it pinches and sticks right to itself. So you just kind of, now normal store-bought bread, you don't want that butt piece. This, people will go for that butt piece. That's the good stuff there. So boom, we're gonna put it back. All right, now we're down to the last little step here. We're letting it reproof in the pan one more time before we bake it. Between a half an hour and an hour, and this is where comes the tricky part of experience. Any baker will tell you, well, you just proof it the right amount. What's the right amount to a guy that doesn't know what it is? If you overproof the bread, it'll become all airy and there'll be air pockets in it. If you underproof it, it'll be tough and chewy. I can't tell you the right amount. You just kind of look at it when it about doubles in size when it fills your pan. Once you put it in the oven and it starts baking, you'll still get a little bit of rise and everything out
Okay,
of it.
I was going to ask you that.
But not significant. It's not going to over pour like a cake out of the pan. The actual dough keeps itself together. So you want it to where it's just rising up out of the pan a little bit, filling the pan base, and then getting it in there.
Well, sure, like that stone oven bread, you know, that the way that used to happen.
Correct. Yep,
right?
It just comes right up out of the
It just
top of it.
stays right where it is on the cookie sheet or whatever you're baking it on.
Yep.
Okay.
We bake it for 350 degrees for probably 35, 40 minutes. Again, you'll thunk it when it sounds hollow. That's when it's done. It's important as soon as you pull those out of the oven, you pull them out of the pans and put them on a cooling rack, because they'll continue to bake in the pan, and then you'll have a really thick crust on it, which you don't need that. So, yep, now it's waiting time.
Yeah, Tom Petty said it best, huh?
Waiting is the hardest part.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people ask me why I originally got into baking. I needed the dough. Preheated the oven to 347 degrees. Most recipes you'll find say 350 degrees or 175 degrees Celsius. Do the math. It doesn't work out. I take it down to 347 because we go European baking here. That's where baking started. The couple extra degrees, every oven is different. I like going at 347 for no particular reason. So now we've proofed our bread up, and you can see that this is the second time proofing. It's nice and big and filling the pan. If you touch it here, it's a little bit sticky, nice firm dough. And what we're going to do is just toss this into the preheated oven. At this point, you want to be careful not to slam the pans down because it'll deflate the dough too a little bit. And then pop it on in there. And now comes the hardest part. Wait. It has been baking, almost ready to come out of the oven, or at least very least double check it. Now what we've got here is a little baker's trick for bread and stuff. We've got some melted butter here that as it comes out, we're going to brush over the top, mainly because putting melted butter on top of anything makes it better, in my opinion.
Amen.
So,
Preach it, brother.
Yep,
absolutely.
I send off my Amazon packages to return them. A little bit of butter underneath. It works for everything. So what we've got coming on now here is in a few seconds, we're going to double check the first loaf of bread. It's not like brownies where you can put a toothpick in and know when it's done. It goes a lot by feel. You'll kind of thunk the bread. It should have a nice golden touch to it. And hey, there's our alarm. So you definitely want to use pads for this. More than one baker has grabbed a pan out of the oven, and it's less than successful that way.
Oh, wow, that looks really good, Joey.
Oh, there's the first one here. Pull this out real quick and check it here. So you can see it wasn't completely 100% even, but a little bit of this was the proofing to it too. We put it in there and kept working, but you can kind of feel it has a little bit hollow thunk to it in there. So we're going to give it in the pan about 3 or 4 minutes to set up here real quick, and then we're going to immediately pop it out. We're only setting it up. It will continue to cook in the pan, so you want to get it onto a cooling rack as quick as possible. Every single recipe you say that you read is going to say let it cool completely before you cut into it. As a professional and amateur baker, that has never happened in the history of bread. We wanted to cut this open 10 minutes ago. We have to wait till it's completely done, though.
Well, we went outside to check on some stuff in the garden, and that was a mistake, because what we ended up doing was getting fresh air in our nostrils and then coming back into the house. And what happened, Joey?
It made us sit here by the oven until it got done because we were
Joey,
so good.
We've told you this before that Joey can't smell, but he could.
I could definitely tell that this is close, and my mouth.
He could smell this bread. He could smell this baking bread. So
yeah, I'm just putting a little glaze on this, just to butter it up a little bit.
Nothing beats butter.
Nothing beats butter. So what I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to double check our small loaf here just to make sure we're in good shape. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pop it out real quick out of the pan. And you can see we've got a nice even thing. There. And then we'll let it sit here for a couple minutes and slow. This one has been chilling in the pan here, cooling off a little bit. So we're going to pop it out of the tray here.
Now that last one, that little...
Now again, every recipe is going to tell you to wait. That's a lie. They just don't want you to get the good bread. One of the tricks with bread too, always use a sharp knife. That's going to make it cut so much smoother. When you do this here, then you won't get
the sharp knife is...
And now you see our nice little swirl in there.
Oh, that looks so good, Joey. This was a good project. We should do this project more frequently.
I agree. This is a great little... Now, you always want to eat the first slice real quick. You want that butter to melt in and just be super delicious. Yes. I am noticing one thing that we did do wrong here. We didn't make nearly enough. This will not last till breakfast tomorrow. I guarantee that.
No.
But let's give it a little taste here and see what we got. Still warm. Nothing beats fresh warm bread.
Oh my goodness, yes. I love that the butter's melting in there. Feel that sponginess?
Nice
Cheers.
and soft. Cheers.
Great harvest. Eat your heart out.
I do not. And you'll see there's no gaps in there. You've got the little bit of a crust, even consistent crust. And again, will not last long.
Won't last till dinner. This is done.
Yes.
Really happy to have Joey do this It's really fun to find these talents that he has. This is definitely on the top of my list.
This was worth it.
Cheers. Thanks for watching, and we'll see if we can get you some more baking in the very near future. Yeah, we didn't make near enough.
No.